usual. Okay, that's always a strange Zoom feature, but awesome. Welcome everyone. So yeah, a couple of things I wanted to cover today before we open up to Q&A. So the first thing is the June app competition. So this one, first competition, we haven't actually received any entries yet. So and the deadline is tomorrow. So I think it's it's yeah, I think it's interesting that there haven't been any entries yet, because I think it is a really interesting prize. Basically, you can win a one-on-one session with Harshika and Zishwan, who are two of the designers on the Tulip design team here at Tulip, and they can help you out improve your app. So they kind of, they can give you tips on UI, UX improvements you can make, flow of the app, visual improvements, little suggestions. Like what I've seen from working with them is like very little suggestions actually go a really long way in terms of just how usable the app is. So seeing as the deadline is tomorrow and there aren't any entries yet, if you just share a screenshot, you have a very high likelihood of winning, actually 100% likelihood of winning pretty much. So I'll drop the link here in the chat. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting prize, and yeah, just wanted to share that. Okay, awesome. So that was the first thing I wanted to share. Then the next thing, I shared this in community earlier this week, but I think it's always a powerful. In the meantime, hey Jen, morning. So this is a arrays I think are pretty underutilized in Tulip, but they can actually do a lot of stuff. So I wanted to get started kind of sharing a couple of things. And this one here specifically is using number arrays. So essentially, as you can see here, as soon as this step is open, I have a simple array with 5 numbers being loaded in it. And then if I just click sum, of course, it sums it up. So it takes the sum of all those, it averages it out. But I think the big advantage compared to just regular variables is that, it doesn't matter if you have 5 items, 500, 5,000, it's like you only need the trigger once, and then you can do all these mathematical operations, sums, averages, standard deviations, whatever it is. It just takes one single action. So arrays over here, and then you have all these functions that are available. Here I'm just summing it up. I'm selecting the array and I'm storing it in a variable. So same with these. It's all like really simple ways to kind of run calculations on data that you have. So I think it's always important to, like, when you're building apps and like if you have something that you have to do over and over again, it's like, oh, maybe actually an array may be a good solution here. So here I'm just going through standard deviation, and then here the min and max. Of course, it just gets the min and the maximum from this array.
I've got a quick question on the array. Is the array like a variable and you populate it with the array, or like I use tables, and an example right now, I'm working on something that I'm trying to sum a quantity of like a product within a work order, and I have that in a table, which is like an array. I'm trying to add them up, and right now I'm doing that by using an aggregation of the table. But I see opportunities to use the array, an example for like picking, if you've got 3 component A's and they're actually in separate line items, I'd like to just sum them up and say, you're going to pick 3 A's. But I guess my question is, like, in order for, like, do they need to be integers or numbers? And then you populate as like a variable, the array?
Yeah. Actually, somebody yesterday in the Spanish office hours actually asked a really similar question. So we built it together.
It's an international question, I guess.
Yeah, worldwide. So here you can see it can be either an integer or a decimal.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You can take either one. Of course, it can't be text if you want to do like the sums or averages or whatever's. It needs to be a numeric one, so decimal or integer. For the use case you described, I think the aggregation is the right way to go. Especially if you have multiple records, like definitely I would go with an aggregation. But for the second thing you described about like summing things up, picking it, yeah, arrays I think could be like a really good solution for that, and depending on how like the rest of the workflow is set up.
Yep.
But if you like, you go through and you say like, okay, as like the operator clicks a bunch of different things and like it just sums them up, then yeah, you can like group them. Okay, now do like 3 + 3 + 3, 9 of these items. I think that's a great solution.
Do you mind looking at the trigger details of that add text button, just so I can see how you added to the array?
Yeah, for sure. So, here we actually added, so the only one that you really need is this, push onto array.
Okay. And can you only have one array on like within an app or on a page, or like you could have it almost like variables? You could have array A and variable array B.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if you're picking like part A and part B, you can have like, okay, part A quantity to be picked, and then you can have that array. And actually, in this app, I probably have multiple arrays. So yeah, we have this number array, which is the one that we're doing here.
Yep.
We have another one, and then an integer array, which is the one in the first step that was being shown. So
Cool.
yeah. They're honestly like, you can do a lot of stuff. Like, and also if you like download some library apps, you'll see like folks at Tulip use them all the time for like even things that you wouldn't really expect. Like you can do a lot of cool stuff with arrays. But yeah, I think it's definitely like if you there's a lot of awesome stuff that can be done. But if you already built it out in aggregation, like I don't think it's worth it to shift over to arrays essentially. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Are there any other questions, by the way, on arrays? Okay, awesome. So in that case, I wanted to share a library that was just added to an app that was just added to the library. Sorry. It's a pretty simple one, but a pretty useful one. I like this one a lot because it's just kind of like, it's something that a lot of facilities around the world, actually all facilities should do, and most facilities do. And it's 5S. So sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. So those are the 5 S's, and then within those, there's a series of questions that whoever's the user who's running the app goes through and runs. And actually, I can demo that for you. So basically, first thing I do is select the location. So this can be customized, of course. I set up 3 locations. Say I want to do a 5S audit on final assembly. I can just click perform new audit, and then it takes me here. These are like, the questions that like we most commonly see, like you just like a pretty standard set of questions, but you can of course go in and modify them as you like. And then for each of them, you record kind of how it is, so okay, are there any unneeded materials, parts around? We'll just say okay, and then you just continue through all of them. I think it's a total of 26 questions or something like that, distributed through the various 5 categories. But and then of course if you want, like, these are, let me just open it up here in my app builder. So once we open it up, we can see, okay, like the sort, there's these 4 questions. So if you did want to come in and modify it, we could of course change the image, change what's being asked of the user running through the app. But again, I think this is a pretty cool app because it's really like standalone. It's something that every facility should be doing, and it works. Just no configuration. You can configure it, but it just works out of the box. And the other cool thing that it does is you can report. Yes, I guess I'll just let me do this. Okay, you can, if there's a non-conformance, you can do this is to report a non-conformance log event. So event is added, and then it takes you back there. And then in my events table, I have the event. Here it is. This is a report non-conformance, and you can display this. You can embed it into some other app. You can do whatever you like with this table. Same as with your other apps, you can kind of share it across multiple across multiple things. But yeah, and then of course, like all the other Tulip apps, it comes with a video describing what's happening and a knowledge-based article that kind of walks through the purpose of the app and how it works high level. But this one's really very simple, so there's not much configuration or actually any configuration done. Works out of the box, and that's why I wanted to share it. I think it's a pretty neat app. Okay. Oh yeah. Actually, have folks used this app already? I think it was released either last week or the week before. It's pretty new, but have folks already started taking a look at it? By any chance?
Not on my end.
No. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's But yeah, I hear I can send a link to it, but I think it's pretty cool and it's fast to get started. If you guys want to take a look at it. Okay, awesome. So those were the main things that I wanted to share today. Are there any questions that people have or anything that we folks have built in the past week that you wanted to share or demo that I can put together or any questions?
Gio, I had a question. We had talked about it, I don't know, a while ago, but for the STL, the embedded STL viewer in an app, was there ever any discussion of being able to pull that file from like a directory, or is it just still something that you have to upload through the app interface?
Oh yeah, let me see.
And it turns into one of those like the Amazon AWS links.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just open up because I have an app that has a CAD file here loaded up into it. Oh no, but sorry, this is a web page. It's not the CAD. Okay, let me just. I'm trying to remember. I don't use the CAD widget that often, to be honest. So
Yeah,
okay,
because the alternative that we had talked about was like you can embed the website of an Autodesk viewer, which does work, but then that has the added step of then you somehow have to upload it to your Autodesk site.
okay, yeah. Whereas you'd like it just loaded dynamically into your step.
Yes.
Yeah, and have you tried, because it looks like here it's just picking up any text variable within the app. So have you tried getting a URL of a STL file and adding that in here?
I tried it a couple weeks ago, not long after we had talked about it, like either putting the link into the CAD widget or putting a like a file directory, and neither one of those worked, but I haven't checked it again recently.
Yeah, and what was the error? Did you get an error message or was it?
It didn't give an error. It just kind of gave the little bar, 3 bars like bounce around and tell you that it's thinking or that it's loading.
Yeah, but it's sometimes if it's a big file, it may take a second to load.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. See you, Jen. See you next week. Yeah. Do you have the app that you can share, or is it?
No, I'm at another workstation.
Oh, oh, okay.
I can go back and check it on my computer later.
Let me see if I can get a GrabCAD. I can't remember if GrabCAD actually makes the URLs available, or if you just download the actual file itself. So let's see if I just get, for example, a small part. Let me go. Oh, so actually probably faster just to go to McMaster. Okay, so if I come in here, I'll just take any old screw, any old bolt, I'll take this one. They don't make the S. Sorry, okay, I guess let's just do step to STL. Okay. Sorry, Jordan. I wish I had a faster answer, but the truth is I don't use the
That's
CAD.
okay. I can check it and send you something offline.
Yeah, I just want to see essentially like when we upload this file, if the URL can be accessed. Separately, then at that point, we'll know if we'll just put in the URL as a variable, as a text variable. Okay. Dave, do I remember correctly that you're displaying also some CAD models in your apps?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a totally humming machine, but what we're doing is we're pasting in the URL from Onshape, and what it's doing is just opening it up to like a Chrome browser, essentially. So it takes them out of the Tulip app, but the Tulip app directs them to like the most recently released document.
Okay. So it's just like one of like an open link trigger essentially.
Yeah, and the under the hood defined technology is that it's querying into Onshape to get the precise like document IDs. So it's
Okay.
dynamic, and that it's only inputting like the most recent revision or the released document. And so that's like the cool part is that it's taking the operator directly to the most up-to-date document.
Oh yeah.
They're not viewing it in the app. A lot of our operators are using tablets, and the detail is just hard to take out. And then we actually really struggled to get a drawing, and this was a bit more on Onshape, but we weren't able to get like a high res image into Tulip. We were able to get an image, but it was so low res that it was like not feasible.
Yeah. And did you try also with the web page embedding widget? Did you try?
I feel like I haven't tried that recently. It's kind of not like it's like, it's just not a top priority, not because it doesn't matter, but we are more struggling with getting our data aligned from our ERP to Onshape. That's disconnected, that even if I were able to have it in Tulip, it's not feasible. We're still like cleaning that up pretty much.
Okay, so it's not the top priority.
Yeah, or that's not the bottleneck, so to say. But I think once that is the bottleneck, I'll definitely try that out.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Jordan, have you considered like is the file accessible that you could like open a link to a new tab on a browser, or do you want to keep it all within Tulip?
Yeah, it would be fine if it could open a link to say either like Onshape or Autodesk viewer, but we just don't use those tools in our workflow. So it'd be another thing to introduce. Then we'd have to upload it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Onshape's like a serious leap too. It's not like
yeah.
Like
I mean,
organizational change.
I use Onshape personally, and I really like it, but it's just not something we use here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know why this is not converting to an STL file. Maybe it is best that we sync offline, but if you do have the files, you can always use the open file command, and like it doesn't have to be locally, it can be
I have done that and like put a file directory, and I think so it just opens to whatever the default program for that file type is. So if you have like just a STL viewer on the desktop, it'll open it in that. So that does work.
Okay, but you wanted to keep it all within Tulip.
Yeah, that's ideally what we'd like to do. Yeah, and it's also like Dave said, it's not something that we're urgent about, but
It's
it's
annoying.
nagging me personally.
Yeah. 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 So again, I think if it is hosted online somewhere that can be accessed, this text indicates that you should be able to put the URL in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me know if you're able to test it out again, and then we can take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I agree. I mean, it's often like that where it's like it's nice to have, but it's not like, it's not top priority for many use cases. But it definitely is, something that whenever I see it introduced in apps, is like team members who use it are always like very like, oh, cool. It's gonna be useful to have as a reference. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, are there any other questions either about yeah, I guess the CAD widget or any other things that folks need some help with?
I can show you something I'm working on currently. Maybe
Yeah,
pick
cool.
your perspective. It's a bit of a can of worms, per usual.
Let's go.
Let's see. I think. Oh, share screen. Okay, cool. Let me move this down here. So I call it the sandwich board. It's actually just like a digital file that we're going to look at in a moment. Let's see. Okay, so what this is some of the stuff I'm working on within Tulip, but okay. So right now we use NetSuite. NetSuite has, there's a work order. Let's say you have to assemble widget A, and there's a planned time. You're supposed to take 80 minutes to do so. Operators are using Tulip, and it's gathering the time, and the operators took 93 minutes. They're supposed to take 80, so the performance was at like an 82%, and that's kind of like a performance feedback. How did the operator do when they complete it? One challenge is that that's the entire like conception of the product, from picking to building to QCing to packing it, and there's actually 4 different people doing that. So it's kind of a weird sense of accountability that my organization's like really like who's doing the good work, who's not doing the good work. So that's a problem I have. So there's all these different operations, and right now Tulip is actually inputting, Joe took 18 minutes, Susan took 30 minutes, Bobby took 30, whatever. But you actually don't know how they did before. And it's because there's no planned amount of time for those distinct operations in NetSuite, and no one's timing that. We're not inputting that, but that data exists. So like right now, this is what it looks like. There's no planned time, there's no score. So something I'm working on now, is on previous performance, and I'll show you how it kind of works. I'm using like tables, queries, and aggregations.
Awesome.
But based on previous performance, I'm inputting a planned time, and that way you can see that like Joe and Billy are killing it, but Susan and Bobby are the ones dragging their feet in this instance, and you can kind of see like how that's working out. So
it's really cool. So and when you say past performance, like it takes the average of all the specific assembly, how long it's taken.
So in the table, it's query, and it will query based on that assembly. Let's select widget A. It'll find all widget A's, and it'll sum up the quantity. Which right now I've learned the hard way that I'm fixing something now, but it sums up all the quantities, sums up all the durations of a particular operation, like pick whatever, and then I'm just computing it, dividing it, and updating the like planned time. And so that's cool. So it's dynamically basing on previous performance, and every time a new performance gets put in, it's doing that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
But one issue that I'm trying to like navigate through is when bad data gets in there. And so let's say somebody just didn't close out Tulip, or they didn't end the shift, and the machine ran for like 80 hours. That's crazy. Then that will impact this time, and it will actually throw it totally out of whack. And luckily right now, this is the main goal, is that when the operator finishes, they'll just get their performance. And it's just, we're trying to do something almost like culturally to promote like people's good feedback. They see, oh, I got like a 90, that's excellent, or over 100. And that's what we're going for. So right now it's still loosey goosey, but what I'm trying to work towards is improving, like essentially stopping bad data to come in. And so one of a good puzzle is if someone doesn't log out, or someone took their break but they forgot to say that they're taking a break. Maybe I'm thinking like some functionalities where it's like, if the Tulip app's been operating for more than 9 hours, stop, like submit the time and close it. And
Yeah.
some of that functionality I haven't like unpacked, but that's what I'm working on today.
This is really cool. Yeah.
Could you run like a separate query for durations longer than like, you know, double the expected time, and then at the end of the day you'd have a discrepancy list to check over?
I like that thinking, Jordan. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Oops.
Yeah, add a filter. No, that, yeah, it's a really good idea. What I've seen done, another thing that I've seen done, but actually I don't think it's as effective as this solution, could be like add an extra column in the table and have like, okay, ignore this record, and then like on the ones that were left running for many hours, you just like you go in and manually check it. Like, yes,
Yeah, it could be like a Boolean column where it's just like reject it. And so if there's just like this discrepancy list that Jordan pointed out, like if that comes up at the end of the day and the production manager is like, whoa, that was totally bad, then they can at least mark that. And so at least no bad data gets in.
Yeah, right. But if you do want to like target the thing at the start, like you can definitely put on the app a trigger that runs like every 10 minutes, like you're describing, like, okay, if it's been running for more than, if it's been on the same step for like more than however many hours, then like complete it, log the user out, or like even present them a screen like, hey, you've been inactive for a little while. Are you still here, or are you gone? And then like a timer on that.
And you think that would be good under like the time, within the app builder, the time, let me see an app page.
Yeah, in the timer.
Because I've had like I've fiddled around with the timer feature, and honestly, it chokes up eventually, or maybe because I've like pushed it too hard.
Yeah.
But
No, it used. Has it been since the change? You know the change when like the shop floor changed. That change was called like apps at edge. So since that, it used to, I think, I agree, like, you know, sometimes have some performance issues. Whereas now it's like it runs very smooth actually. Since
okay.
probably like a month or two ago.
All right, I'll try to hold you to that, because I've got something that I try to explore on that, but I'll definitely explore that. I like that, you know, and that works with like my bank, you know, when I'm like, if it's open for a certain amount of time. So I'll check that.
Yeah.
And this is actually just like one small piece to a much bigger puzzle, which has to do with like skill matrix and like, but this kind of quest for just knocking out bad data is kind of my objective.
Yeah.
So any features that can prevent that.
Yeah. Actually, I can show you, Dave, the timer if you want, how it's changed real quick.
Yeah, you can sure. The reason why I was exploring it is because we wanted a KPI of how people were performing on a work order, similar to that kind of thing here. If they're supposed to take 20 minutes and they're at 30, that's something that we actually want to trigger to like the production manager to be like, hey, something is breaking the standard operating procedure. Maybe they got a bad part, or someone doesn't know what they're doing. And so what I did was I have like a table. It's not good to do with my hands, but like a table of the plan time, and then each minute to add and to increment the actual time. And then the moment that it breaks that threshold of the actual passes the plan time, then maybe it triggers like an andon light or something like that. So I tried the timer thing and I would add it up. But then after like 20 seconds or 20 instances, it would just choke and stop operating.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, there's a message as well that came through. This is actually kind of similar to what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to calculate bonuses. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome, Ryan. Do you mind if I share my screen, Dave?
Yeah, you can take it back.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So here, and actually, so ever since that change that I was describing, you can see that the timers, we now actually have them up. So by default, normally it's like, I think every minute and above. Whereas now, because they work reliably, they go down to every second.
Nice.
So, we can say something like this. Okay, if the app info, let's see, where is it? Time elapsed on current stack is greater than or equal to, let's just say static value interval 12 seconds, then I'll just show a message for now, and on or something like that. And now if I come in here and I open up this step, you'll see like as soon as this hits 12, it's gonna start showing the message just the one time. Yeah, and there it is. And it's really like you can see it's firing every single second, and it's just like a metronome. We're getting these error messages show up, but in here you can have you can do a lot of stuff now that this works very reliably, and
Yeah.
they're so critical in like operations. So it's good that this, like ever since this change, like I've seen like a lot of cool use cases crop up. But this is not enabled by default. This every second, the faster ones. If you do want them, if you just send me a message, I can then enable them for your accounts.
Yeah, I'll definitely maybe revisit that work that I was doing now that this is a little smoother. Another detail, I wonder if anyone's ever asked you this, but if you go back to the app running with the timer, and so there's seconds and then like the milliseconds are like that actually like threw my team out of whack, where they thought like the Tulip app was freaking out because it was almost like it's doing too good of a job. But I wonder if you're able to kind of like sometimes I'll do it with expressions where I'll split the string or something like that. But yeah, I'm wondering if you could remove that, because they freaked out when they first saw it.
Yeah, I thought it was going crazy. Yeah, let me see here. So did you do something like this? Let's see.
Could you just make the text box smaller and cover up the milliseconds?
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
simple solution. The only thing is,
I guess that doesn't work once you add another digit.
So time elapsed on current step. We could do. Let's see, what's the best way to filter this? Let me just see what it stores it as in the text.
Yeah. Something I'm learning is a lot of the API integrations from NetSuite to Tulip that we use pushes everything as text, even if it's numbers. And so I'm updating the connectors today to get the numbers.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, like in the unfortunately, like if you do update the connector, you need to like save it again and
yeah, do the whole suite. Yeah, I blocked out the whole day doing it. But
okay. Yeah. So here I don't know what this number represents.
If you divide it by, it's like some weird number, but if you divide it by like 3,002, it's like some sort of calculation of seconds. Because I think
600, that's the number of seconds in an hour.
yeah, something like that. That doesn't make sense yet, though. I mean, unless maybe if you restart the app and they both start at 0 or something. So it's like 1 second behind. Nope, never mind. I don't know.
Yeah, you could do. Let's see. I think this. It's gonna wait 10 seconds, but oh yeah, no, I can't exactly tell what that number is. It's an interval. Let me try doing. Time elapsed on times that. Wait, what was it again? Just doing it. Okay, and then sorry, I'll stop. I feel like I'm just dragging on now. Oops, this one's still in 10 seconds.
Yeah, there's, don't need to unpack it totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sometimes what I'm doing is I'm just like, I find myself actually just changing around the type, going from text to integer, or like, that's, I mean, I'm a little smarter now where I like know the source information and I can get to like the source of it, but like especially using intervals, and like I've used a lot more integers nowadays than numbers because I find it easier to take an integer to the intervals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like it is milliseconds. So I think this is it, and then this does the trick.
That looks right. Or
Yeah,
close.
that's right. Yeah, and then when you do this, you can just also do like add a round to it to 0.
What does the comma 0 do?
That defines the number of decimal places.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So now it's gonna just snip it
Oh,
all.
very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good detail. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't hop this call. So I've definitely used the round feature too. I guess I didn't read the fine print though, that you can limit the number of decimals or.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do it. So yeah, these.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, rounds the number to a specified number of digits or the nearest integer if no digits provided. Oh, okay. So if you, I didn't even know that. Oh, look at that. I learned something as well. If you don't put any digits, it just rounds it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never put in any digits in there. Not to say I'm ever like really trying to get that decimal anyways, but you never know.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So this looks like this will do the trick. It's not going to be like interval like it is here, but
Yeah, it's close enough though. That's still good.
Cool. I can paste this function here in case folks want it in the chat. Yeah, Ryan, I know you're sick, but hopefully, but feel free to post in the chat if that's what you're looking for. If you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat there. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Any other questions or any other things that we can go over together? That'd be interesting to cover.
I'm good, thanks, Gio.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I guess. 1 second. I do want to share. Where is it? Sorry. Let me just. Sorry, just because. So we're gonna have a webinar next Tuesday on table queries and aggregations. I mean, it sounds like Dave and Jordan, you've already used them, and so it's like it's pretty beginner level. So I don't know how much like it sounds like you've already like set them up. That's pretty much the only thing we're going over, but I did want to share it. So there's the link. It's Tuesday afternoon if you want to join.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
detail I like in terms of, so I try not to get too deep, but I've made a table for each operator and I populate it using the tables API because importing the table into each app for each operator is not scalable.
Yeah.
So I'm able to like push the information, but doing an aggregation on a table that's not linked to the app seems like something that's not possible. You can look up an aggregation of a table. Here, maybe I'll show you. I've got
Yeah.
something that we can look at that won't be too bad. That's like not too deep. But maybe like I could put this as like a, I don't know if it's even feasible, but as like a product suggestion. I've been using this stuff a lot recently. It's way
okay.
better than building out like all the, sometimes I still have to use it, but this has been a lot cooler. But I can run an aggregate, which is cool. So that's all right. I use this, but I can't run a query. I can look up a query in a table and I could say, okay, this table's got query A, but I can't run query A and then run an aggregation of that without actually having the app load it. And so because like for example, I've got this table, like a master table that's got like the username, their NetSuite ID. I call it like their legacy table. That's like every work order they've ever done is captured there. And then their skill matrix, which is due to like climb up. And so I was looking for opportunities to take the information from the legacy table to populate the skill matrix table. And if I could run a query without actually having to input the, and I'll get one more example of what I'm speaking to.
This is awesome, by the way, Dave.
Yeah.
Cool.
So in order to run a query, I have to actually import it in here.
Yeah.
But if I've got 20 operators, I'm not going to do that. But if I could use the table API to say like, hey, run query A, like this table already has the query, run the query and return a list then, or an array.
But why do you need to load the query 20 times? Can't you have an app input and then it just changes dynamically?
I'm not familiar with the app input details.
Oh yeah, so if you open up the query.
Let's see.
Yeah.
We'll use this one. So query.
Yeah. So if you open up the query, so if you, for example, add a filter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know that. And you can query based on a variable.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
that table has to be in the app in order to run that, I think. I can't, like that table we were just looking at is not added here. So I don't know if I can run that query. I could do it, like I use that currently. It's not in here because I haven't built it in yet. I haven't built it in yet here, but I look up, like I've got a main table that's got all the information of all work orders ever done. But in order for like the personnel, that table's not in the app. And so therefore I can't run the query, even like I can't populate that variable into the query, I think. And so what I like my dream world, and again, I don't understand like the scope of this puzzle, but if I had a function here, like this is run aggregation, and this gets what I need, and I use this. If there was a function that was run query, then I would be in business, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, for sure, like posted and product suggestions, I think that'd be interesting. I'm just trying to think because like each query kind of requires different parameters. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd actually be interested to see what the product team says, because
Yeah. And I don't know like what it takes, I really don't know what it's like on the back end. So I understand that, just because you think it doesn't mean that it can exist.
yeah,
But
it's yeah, you go like that and it's done. The but I'm just trying. What are all those tables that you have in that app? What are they? Because I saw the one that had OE on it.
so this is, yeah, it's not easy to remove tables. Or I guess well, yeah, once you like paste it in there and it's connected, it's hard to untangle it.
Yeah.
But this was an OEE dashboard. This was some of the work I was doing with the timer, then it kind of failed.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a table that was looking at like each station, and it was inputting the work order plan time, and then the timer was running and inputting the actual time. But
Okay.
this is kind of like a relic. It's kind of dead. And then this one here, this is kind of new too, that I'm getting booted out. So
Really?
yeah, it's not too frequent that it's like a pain in the butt, but I'm not used to this. Not used to getting kicked out like that.
I've never heard of that before.
Maybe it's because you got the in-company privilege or something.
Yeah, that's yeah. You should definitely actually, if you don't mind, emailing support at Tulip, because that's
okay.
something that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's new. I only really experienced it yesterday.
And for sure, you didn't change any settings on like your Chrome or.
I don't think so. I don't know. I have to look into it a bit further.
Yeah. But if it exists, yeah, definitely email support.
But this one, this table, which may not be as relevant, but if I've got two different boxes, and I've got a button that produces one label, but I actually want two labels, I've created this catch where it says like, okay, print out two labels. And then once you print it, reduce the number of the actual and print until 0. So that's like my solution of printing out like box 1 of 2, 2 of 2. But that's something that hopefully I can actually take out of like I don't like gluing the table to the app because it gets really clunky. That I'm hoping to put that as like an API, so it's a little more dynamic.
Yeah.
But that's a cool feature. I would also suggest that as like a product suggestion is like the feature of like box 1 of 2, 2 of 2 for like when people are labeling stuff. That I created like a workaround, but
yeah, no, yeah, it's yeah, I think you're right. It just kind of like, in general, like I know like if you want to post it for sure, but like there's often like a trade-off between like how simple something is to use versus like how many like cool and like more advanced functionality things you can do with it. So I mean, I think it's definitely a good suggestion, but that's the one that I know that the team is always somewhat conscious of. Oh, see you, Jordan. Yeah, it looks like we missed for.
Yeah, sorry, I always take the microphone for too long.
No. This is great, Dave. This is impressive to see. I mean, it's made it's gone miles since
we first started.
Well, even since a couple of months ago. I can't remember when I think it was sometime this winter you joined, but every time I see it, it's good to see really good progression.
Yeah, I'm hoping to join more often because just talking about Tulip with others, I can definitely it's like for like some of the suggestions that we got with like the discrepancy list, like just running this by another group of people is pretty nice. Where there's no one in my organization who's really thinking at that. We're more product focused, so this form's pretty cool. So I appreciate it, Gio.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it's great to hear. See you, Ryan. No, yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, and if you have questions like before the end of the before and you want to you don't want to wait until next Thursday, always post in community, because I think it's like, especially now, like there's a lot also with internally Tulip, like we really want to make sure that it's like an effective thing for things like this. It's like a lot of people that aren't in contact or having similar, kind of want to build similar solutions. So bridging that gap.
I look at Oh, sorry, Gio.
No, go ahead.
I refer to the community, like that's my first go-to